Mongkok remains tense tonight, with self-styled volunteers removing more barricades at a busy junction as the massive pro-democracy protests entered their 26th day.
The High Court said it granted orders to clear the roads because of the risk of the unrest turning into civil disorder.
As the demonstrators continued, activists took a popular landmark to underline their message. Day 26 of the mass pro-democracy protests saw activists taking their campaign to new heights, literally. A group of hikers on Lion Rock in Kowloon Tong hung a giant yellow banner that read, "I want true universal suffrage." While the umbrella on top of the slogan has become an icon of the city's pro-democracy movement, Lion Rock itself is special to many locals. The 500-meter high hill embodies the people's perseverance through bad times and fond memories in good times. The banner was unfurled on the day the High Court explained why it had granted 3 temporary injunctions since Monday to stop demonstrators from blocking key roads in Admiralty and Mongkok. 3 transport groups, representing minibus and taxi firms, and the owner of Citic Tower next to the government's headquarters, applied for the court orders. Judge Jeremy Poon today said the injunctions were granted because the ongoing street blockades that have paralyzed vital areas of the city have the real risk of turning into civil disorder. In his written judgment, Poon added that no matter how noble the underlying cause of the movement was, it had far exceeded the bounds of what was reasonable due to the length and size of the demonstrations and the increasingly violent confrontations between protesters and police. The judge stressed a balance must be struck between the public's right to use the roads and the protesters' right to demonstrate. All 3 injunctions expire tomorrow, when the court will decide whether to extend them. This afternoon, some people gathered on Portland Street in the usually bustling shopping hub of Mongkok took matters into their own hands. Many cheered as several men began removing wooden frames and metal barriers. This man insisted that he was not sent by bailiffs or any group to clear up the area. He said as a construction worker, he always carried a pair of pliers with him and claimed that he's just an ordinary citizen picking up rubbish and clearing the barriers. His act drew a large crowd outside the Langham Place shopping mall. Police officers eventually intervened and even started picking what was left behind. This officer dodged the question when asked if the police were ordered to help clear the scene. This is not an operation to take down the barricades or clear the protesters, he said. We're merely removing rubbish off the ground to make sure the area is safe. Now, please move out of my way so I can do my job. Parts of Portland and Argyle streets were cleared shortly after, as the crowds cheered on cars that can now drive through the junction of the roads. In their daily media briefing, police said 10 men and 1 woman were arrested during the chaos that erupted in Mongkok overnight. Once again, the force urged people to stay clear of what it calls a high-risk zone.
There are radical protesters and troublemakers mixing in the illegal assembly. Large-scale confrontation would be sparked off in any moment. In fact, since the occupation of roads, confrontations and criminal offences occurred every day.
The mood was calm in Admiralty as hundreds continued to besiege government buildings in Tamar. In another development, about 1,300 civil servants today posted an open letter to hit back at their union leaders who had earlier criticized the mass sit-in. 2 unions condemned unnamed politicians for stirring up the Occupy crisis by encouraging what they called ignorant citizens to take part. In the letter, the civil servants said their union statement had deepened the rift between people and government staff. They added that they understand the demonstrators are also under a lot of pressure and hope the crisis can be resolved peacefully.